Hi, John Lay here from Talented Learning. To answer your question, what is an RFP? An RFP is a request for proposal, and it is a formal step in the learning system's buying process. After you define your requirements, qualify vendors, and determine your vendor shortlist, it's time to solicit a proposal. You can solicit proposals in a variety of ways. One way is just to do it willy-nilly. Anytime you meet a vendor, ask them if they want to give you a proposal. But what that ends up doing is getting very generic proposals over time, and it's hard to compare them apples to apples. So an RFP process is a formalized process that's almost like a mini project within your project to communicate to the vendors that a request is coming, to distribute the proposal request to them, to give them time to answer that proposal request and submit a proposal by the deadline or the timeline, and then the process for your organization to read, review, grade, and compare those RFPs. So that is the process of an RFP, and it's that mini project within the broader LMS selection project that gets probably where the most of the work is. So why would you want to do all that work, and why are people always say, I don't know if I want to do an RFP? It's because they are a lot of work, and they can be laborious, and if you don't do it right, it's a lot of work for nothing. But if you're following our process here at Talented Learning, you'll know that we've been stepping you through the steps of the buying process. And if you've been going through those steps, the RFP is easy because when you define your requirements the first time and you focused on the business requirements, the functional use case requirements, the professional service requirements, the technical requirements, and the support requirements, you are already creating the RFP without knowing it. Because your RFP is really your requirements written down in a way that the vendor has to respond to each one of those requirements on how they would meet that particular requirement. So the first step to doing an RFP is getting your requirements. And so when organizations say they hate the RFP process, a lot of times it's because they didn't formally define their requirements, which makes the RFP process seem pretty laborious, to say the least. But there's also better reasons. By giving a time period, maybe 3 weeks, to answer that RFP, you get all of your questions at the same time. As an organization, you're in that frame of mind of helping these vendors understand the RFP and answer their questions. And when they come back, you can look at the 4 responses side by side and see how they answered each of the same questions, and whether their answer was superior relative to the other ones, and whether it met your needs or not, or whether it almost did or exceeded. Those are all things that you can look at on a point-by-point and a requirement-by-requirement basis, as well as the actual pricing proposal. So in addition to doing your requirements and articulating all that great data to the vendor, now they have the ability to respond with a pricing proposal. So in your RFP, it's prudent to articulate how you would like pricing, what categories over how long, and give broad parameters. So that way, when the pricing comes back from the vendors, you can once again do apples to apples comparison and look at, okay, what do I get in year 1? What does 1 year cost, which is my license plus my implementation? What do years 2, 3, and 4 cost of just the ongoing cost based on my usage pattern? So by the end of the process, what you have is all the data of what they say they can and can't do, as well as the pricing. And now you're ready to make a decision on the next step of your process. Are they qualified to bring them in and do a use case demonstration and a presentation of their proposal? Or do they have too many gaps in comparison to the competition and it's time to cut them loose? The only way you know the answer to that question is using an RFP process.